Hello, welcome to La Excellence. Our first issue is Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan. As we know, many parts of Afghanistan, including Kabul, are under control of Taliban. Afghanistani soldiers didn't put up a strong fight. Many border areas, many provinces, and towns came under the control of Taliban, and they are trying to establish their own government. Afghanistan may be governed by a council now after the takeover of Taliban. And Haibatullah Akhundzada, he might take over the control of the government. Next issue is Supreme Court allows women to take NDA exam, National Defense Academy exam. Recently, Supreme Court has issued an order to allow women candidates to take up this examination, and UPSC was directed to conduct the examination in this way. Recently, if we observe, due to Supreme Court's intervention in many of the armed forces and armed force related examinations and various officer level examinations, women are allowed. That means slowly in the combat operations too, women are allowed. This is one step ahead in this context. Next issue is net zero emission targets. In the next month, we have COP, Conference of Parties of UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. This convention's focus, one of the major areas of focus would be net zero target. What do we mean by net zero? Net zero is also known as carbon neutrality. Carbon neutrality means carbon emissions and carbon absorptions should be equal. Net zero is not equivalent to no emissions. We will have emissions, but these emissions should be equivalent to the absorption capacity of the atmosphere. That means carbon is sucked out of the atmosphere. But then how should we decide what is the amount of the carbon emissions that can be allowed? How should we decide on this? We already have a target. Under Paris Agreement, it is said that we need to control the greenhouse emissions in such a way that the temperatures by 2000 as compared to the pre-industrial level will increase only 1.5 degrees or maximum 2 degrees. This is the target that we have. Based on the target, we decide what is the carbon emissions that every country can go for. Already as of now, 120 countries have committed for net zero targets. Five countries including Australia, Singapore, they have not set the target. China said it is going to peak its emissions by 2030 and it is going to achieve net zero by 2060. USA said it is going to achieve net zero by 2050 and half its emissions by 2030. But India is the major country, third largest emitter, but it is not committed to go for this net zero targets. Why? Why? Because our developmental priorities are huge. We have huge population and the present development levels are less. So if we want to achieve net zero target, we have to reduce the carbon emissions, let's say thermal power plants, etc. So transitioning from polluting to non-polluting takes a lot of research and development. It is good. But as of now, the resource availability is not there. That's why we are not committed for net zero in the near future. And this is one issue. Second issue is recently Union Cabinet has approved Kegali Amendment. What is Kegali Amendment? Kegali is a place, Rwanda. We have a protocol known as Montreal Protocol. This Montreal Protocol deals with ozone depleting substances, ODS. That means there are certain man-made chemicals that depletes the ozone layer that is present in the stratosphere. We want to reduce the harm to ozone layer. In this context, Montreal Protocol sets out certain targets to reduce ozone depleting substances. In 2015, we made an amendment to this particular Montreal Protocol, which is known as Kegali Amendment. In this amendment, it is said that HFCs, hydrofluorocarbons, these are not considered as ozone depleting substances. So, under Montreal Protocol, it was said that we can use hydrofluorocarbons for refrigeration. But later we found out that this is the cause for global warming. On the one side, yes, it can reduce ozone depletion, but on the other side, it is contributing to a bigger problem known as global warming. That's why we want to reduce this. For that only, this amendment known as Kegali Amendment was proposed in 2016. In 2016 itself, India has signed it, but recently India ratified it. Ratified means implementation. So we are going to reduce HFCs in 4 phases by 2047. We are going to phase out the HFCs by 80%. Kegali Amendment is related to ozone depleting substances. Next issue is boosting oil palm production in India. Recently, Union Cabinet has approved National Mission on Edible Oils and Oil Palm. This is going to amount to 11,000 crores, out of which 8,000 crores would be the share of the central government, the remaining would be the share of the states. This mission is for increasing the oil palm acreage by additional 6 lakh hectares by 2025 and 26, and crude palm oil production to 11.2 lakh tons by 2025 and 26. So these are the targets because oil palm production is comparatively less as compared to the consumption in India. That's why we are importing it. When we import, our food security is dependent upon other countries. Our forex reserves get depleted. In this context, domestic production of oil palm, it will boost the employment, it will boost the agricultural production, it will reduce the dependence on other countries, and it will reduce the forex consumption. Next issue is India-Vietnam Joint Navy exercises. The navies of India and Vietnam. Vietnam is Southeast Asian country. So we are carrying out the joint drills in South China Sea region. Why this is specifically important? Because recently India presided over UNSC, United Nations Security Council. In this context, we also said that maritime security, maritime cooperation are important. In this context, we said that hegemony of any country in any parts of the world is not good. In this context, South China Sea is claimed, majority of this South China Sea is claimed by China. As a counter to it, now this is symbolism for that. We are countering that Chinese claim. We and Vietnam, we are carrying out joint drills in South China Sea as part of maritime cooperation. So INS Ran Vijay and INS Kora, these undertook bilateral maritime exercises with Vietnam's People's Navy. And this bilateral exercise major aim is to consolidate the already existing bond with Vietnam, and it is a step forward in India-Vietnam defense relations. If you remember, Vietnam is one of the major defense partners of India. Vietnam purchases defense equipment from India, that is very significant. It is important for India's defense exports. Next issue is Afghanistan crisis. Afghanistan crisis, Taliban took over Kabul. Protests started in Afghanistan. Taliban responded by shooting the people who were protesting. And there's a crisis situation that is existing in Afghanistan now. Then who are these Taliban? What is their aim? Taliban are a group of students, madrasa students, who have consolidated their power under the leadership of Mullah Omar. And now they ruled Afghanistan from 1996 to 2001. When this Twin Tower attack happened on USA, Taliban were in power in Afghanistan. When USA went to war in Afghanistan, they destabilized and they dismantled the Taliban structure. But now, after 20 years, Taliban are full in power in Afghanistan. Afghanistan-related issue needs to be understood comprehensively. Please go through any videos and articles available in that context. Next issue is green bonds. Recently, Indian renewable energy project developers, they have raised 26,000 crores through issuance of green bonds. What do we mean by green bonds then? Green bond, like any other bond, is a fixed income instrument. It is designed specifically to fund the environment friendly projects, let's say solar power projects, wind power projects, like that. If the project is environment friendly, such projects can issue green bonds. Next issue is global trade recovery. Recently, WTO has released Goods Trade Barometer, which calculates the expansion of goods trade. Recently, this one hit highest record. In this context, what we have to understand is current trade expansion is happening, and pandemic has led to shocks that led to sudden fall in the trade in the last year. Now, compared to last year, expansion would be more, right? That's why this barometer has shown the positive outlook. This particular positive outlook has risks too. What are these risks? One is regional disparities are there. That means only few regions they are experiencing the revival, and continued weakness in the service sector and lagging in the vaccination timetable. Only few countries they are on time. Other countries they are lagging in the vaccination timetables. So these are the risks that we need to consider when we consider this positive aspects of trade recovery. Next issue is Government Securities Acquisition Program, G Securities Acquisition Program. Recently, RBI said it will conduct open market operation of government securities of worth 25,000 crores under G Securities Acquisition Program. What do we mean by open market purchase? OMO, open market operations. These are the market operations conducted by RBI. It can sell or it can purchase. It can sell or it can purchase the government securities to the market or from the market to adjust the liquidity conditions in the market. That means money supply. If it is more, investment rates will increase. But if it is more, if it is more, it can lead to inflationary tendencies. So that's why it controls the money supply to adjust the investment rates and then the inflation rates. Now, G Securities Acquisition Program under this RBI is going to purchase the government securities worth 25,000 crores that will give the money with the hands of the people. That means market expansion happens with this. Next issue is remission of duties and taxes on exported products. RODTEP. Government has recently notified the rules under RODTEP. Under this, exporters, let's say if I'm an exporter, if I export certain amount of goods, I can claim the rebates on the taxes that I paid. And this scheme's major objective is to boost the exports and boost the competitiveness across the world. This scheme provides export rebates for sectors like marine, agriculture, leather, gems and jewelry, automobiles, plastics, electrical and electronic goods, machinery, etc. All these sectors they get the export rebates. And RODTEP it covers 8,555 tariff lines. This scheme will be implemented by the Customs Department through simplified IT system. A rebate will be issued in the form of transferable duty credit or electronic form. That means rebates will be automatically credited to the account of the person, and it will be maintained in the form of electronic ledger by Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs CBIC. This is how RODTEP program would be implemented. Next one is government and data collection. From here onwards, these are the editorials. Government says we don't have data. Let's say on migrant issue, when Supreme Court asked, government said we don't have data. On COVID related deaths, government said we don't have data. So no data declarations have become more common. But for any evidence-based governance, data plays crucial role. Hands-off responsibility plays a negative role. It will reduce the trust on the government. It will increase the future risk. If we have data, if we can take proper measures, it will reduce the risk. If we don't have data, that might increase the future risk. That's why data collection is important. Data tampering is dangerous. Next issue is China's nuclear arsenal. It is said that People's Republic of China is expanding the nuclear arsenal. It is building more missiles. And we know that India, Pakistan, we also have nuclear missiles. But in a region where regional conflicts are there, border conflicts are there, if one country develops a nuclear arsenal, other country try to develop, other country try to compete. So that's why piling up this nuclear arsenal is a lose-lose situation. It can increase the regional tensions. Next issue is police reforms. India requires police that is responsive and respected, not a feared one. So in present context, police forces are feared most than respected and responsive. So in this context, implementation of police reforms, attitudinal change among the police, change in the training structure of the police, these needs to be taken as a way forward. Next issue is moral disaster of West. So in the context of Afghanistan, it is said that USA abdicating its responsibility can be considered as moral disaster. So in this context, we have to understand this. It's not just USA which came to war on Afghanistan. NATO forces, North Atlantic Treaty Organization countries, NATO forces together came in. UK is part of it, France is part of it, they all came in. So now they are abdicating their responsibility, which is a moral shame on them. In this context, global powers, regional countries, they all have to understand the ground reality. They have to respond to this emerging threat in the Afghanistan. These are the issues. Thank you very much. All the very best.